Drones are not a new technology anymore. There are thousands, if not millions of people who own them now. Regulations and laws are always several steps behind new technologies, and the media also likes to highlight problems and negative effects of new technologies a lot more than it does to promote the benefits. Now, of course, drones are not unique, and like any technology, new or old, can be used for good or bad. Now, the majority of users will usually act sensibly and are certainly not out to cause trouble with their drones. Now, depending on the country you're in, you can Google the local laws applicable for drones and get an understanding of what is and isn't allowed. However, even with this knowledge, laws can be left open to interpretation, and what I'm not going to do is wade into any debates about the legalities and specifics on the legal side of things. So what I thought would be useful is to use my experience that I've gained over the last 18 months or so and several hundred hours of flying and highlight some of the things that new pilots can do to ensure that they act responsibly. Now, before we start, it's important to note that this is in no way an exhaustive list, and it's not meant to circumnavigate any local or national laws, legislation when it comes to drone operation. That being said, let's start with number 1. Be aware of other people. Because of a number of negative perceptions about drones, some people may be irrationally negative towards you when flying. Now, I can say that in the 18 months and hundreds of flights that I've done, I've only encountered this myself once. And it was very minor, so it is very rare. But if you trawl through YouTube, you'll find lots of videos of drone pilots being verbally and sometimes even physically attacked, despite the drone operator often acting 100% legally. Now, without getting all psychological, people generally fear what they don't understand, and a large proportion of the general public do not understand all the ins and outs of drones. I can honestly say that before I started flying, I was one of them. So my advice on this one is to try and educate people. I'll always try to talk people and be overly friendly with anybody who asks any questions or voices any concerns when I'm flying. And if someone seems in any way aggressive or confrontational, I'll do my best to remain calm and try to be understanding as I can. And if there's really no calming that person down, then I pack my things and leave in order to diffuse the situation. Number 2, think about the noise. I've noticed that the noise of drones can often put people on edge. And to be honest, it's probably the thing I least like about drone flying. These things are not quiet, and they can often disturb a beautiful scene. If I'm on my own and I want to get the shot, I usually happily sacrifice the peace and serenity in order to capture it, and for me, it's often worth it. However, being someone that dislikes noise and loves nature, I can fully understand other people getting irate when people are flying drones while they're trying to enjoy a beautiful sunset. Therefore, I'll often walk that extra mile and try to find a remote and quiet spot where I'm not going to disturb others. On some occasions, I'll even go as far to leave my drone in the bag and just enjoy the scene without the distraction. Number 3, it's not a good idea to fly in order to impress others. Now, this one sounds kind of obvious, but don't underestimate the effects of having spectators present. For whatever psychological reason, we often try and impress others, and by trying to show others how cool this new bit of kit is, it can often mean pushing things a little bit too far and ending up in disaster. If you do fly with friends around, make sure they don't distract you. A little pre-flight briefing can go a long way, and try to avoid flying around the types of people who will bet you can't fly it through that tiny little gap in the trees. Number 4, practice and understand what to do if and when things go wrong. There's nothing like seeing connection lost come up on your screen to really get your heart racing. And generally the worst thing to do in these type of situations is to start panicking and mindlessly pushing buttons. If you're flying sensibly, you should have enough battery to pause for a moment, fully assess the situation and make a sensible decision. You will improve your chances of doing this if you've read up on how the aircraft works and correctly configured things like return to home. Just as real pilots train for emergency procedures in aircraft, doing the same with your drone is a worthwhile investment. Number 5, respect wildlife. Drone laws tend to cover people quite specifically, but animals and wildlife can be a bit more open for debate. Once again, it's really up for the drone pilot to use common sense. Drones make quite a bit of noise and this can easily frighten wildlife, so it's always advisable to maintain a safe distance. And if there's no legal requirement, you'll have to judge what this is. If you are going to film wildlife, at least approach them slowly. And if they start to become agitated in any way, it may not be wise to continue. Number 6, do not film under the influence of alcohol. Just don't. No explanation needed really, enough said. And finally, number 7, don't get complacent. Contrary to what you might think, I've actually found that the highest risk of crashes does not come on the first flight. Most people are actually overly cautious the first time they fly. And with modern drones being very easy to learn, once you have the basics down, it's very easy to feel like an expert pilot and become overly complacent. This is when you start to fly faster and further and can often end up forgetting about that tree behind you, only to end up flying into it. If you're totally relaxed and not worried about anything when flying, this is actually a bad thing. A few nerves are a good thing. They keep you sharp and alert, and having a sense of unease when flying is a good thing and means that you're paying attention. So remember that flying above all is fun, and it allows you to see, film and photograph things in a totally new way. As long as you act responsibly and fly safe, you're unlikely to run into any major problems. Feel free to drop a comment below if you have any questions, and if you found this video useful, hit the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.